Like I said, based out of San Francisco. If doing stuff like this sounds neat to you, careers at ISEC Partners, we accept resumes. Why listen to this talk? Well, everyone knows VoIP is insecure, right? You don't have to be at this talk to know that. But demonstrating that insecurity to non-technical people, or to say you're doing a consulting engagement and you want to really demonstrate the fact that they need to switch to encryption, or a number of different measures that can be taken there. Injecting audio into someone else's phone calls is definitely the quickest way to get someone's attention on that. There was going to be a lolcats joke there, but it's too early. So previously, RTP injection, one thing we want to make clear is that we're not claiming to have invented RTP injection or anything like that. This is a known subject. Pretty much since RTP came out, it's known that you can inject audio into it. The reason we're up here talking about this is that previously the hurdles to actually do RTP injection, the tools out there required a fair amount of technical expertise. The bar was definitely up there. Command line Unix tools, although recently someone beat us to the punch with a GUI tool. Is Justin here anyway? That guy beat us to the punch. I'm buying him a beer after. So what we want to do with this tool is make it really lower the technical hurdles to performing RTP injection. And the ways that we do that are a nice GUI interface, and as Alex is going to talk about, we do a lot of automatic transcoding for you. So you don't have to worry about the weird codecs that are in use. You could record something in Sound Recorder or Windows Media Recorder and throw an MP3 or a WAV file at it and just hit inject, and it's going to automatically transcode it over there for you. So Alex is going to talk about that further and show you during the demo. So let's give quick background on VoIP. There are a lot of signaling protocols out there. VoIP is like split into two streams usually. There's the signaling protocols and the media protocol. I say protocol because with all these signaling protocols that you see, the real popular ones like SIP, as well as the big ones like H323, and Cisco Skinny, and a number of other ones out there, they all use RTP for injection. Or, excuse me, we use RTP for injection. They use RTP for media. So this really affects a wide range of the deployments out there. SIP for kind of home, small business deployments, H323 for really the corporate large deployments. So, RTP. It's got a lot of stuff in there. The stuff that we're really interested in, first is the payload type. That's actually the codec type that's used to encode the media that's being sent in the RTP packets. The sequence number. Increments with every packet that's sent, just kind of like a counter, letting the other side know that, okay, this is the next packet, this is the next packet. Timestamp, kind of a little misleading. What that actually is the number of audio samples in the RTP packet, and typically this value is 160, so there's 160 audio samples in a typical RTP packet. And that can vary, but again, that's a typical number. Finally, the SSRC, the Synchronization Source Identifier. That functions as a call identifier, so the endpoints know which call this stream is in. So why is attacking it possible? Well, it's predominantly sent unencrypted, and even when it's encrypted, if you just use SRTP, it sends the key in the clear, which means why are you even encrypting it? Nice touch. It uses UDP, which means building packets is super easy. There's a number of libraries out there. You can even do this by hand. It's really easy to create UDP packets and throw them around on the wire there. So how we do it is we look for a RTP packet on the wire, and you're able to grab that RTP packet and pull the sequence information out of it and adjust it accordingly so that when we inject our audio, it's going to be correct and it's going to be displayed or played by the other side. And additionally, because this is, UDP voice packets, they're flying across the network, right? We're going to grab one out of there, and by the time we've even looked at it, there's going to have been 10 more behind it. So what's really nice about this, for us as an attacker, is that these clients have a really wide tolerance of that sequence information. We've seen everything from, it being off by a few thousand to, like one of those packets, like the sequence number. We've seen it all over the place. But some of those packets that typically increment, or the sequence numbers that typically increment, sometimes you can just leave them static, and the other side will still play your audio. So it varies based on the client, but it's really nice for an attacker because you can just kind of, even if your numbers are in the ballpark, your attack's going to work. So quick kind of picture of how this works. You see the two VoIP endpoints at the end, and this can be hard phones like is shown in there. It can be soft phones, anything. RTP packets flying back and forth on there, on the information superhighway, going back and forth, crazy. And it's got all our sequence information in there. We pull it out. We build our sequence information on top of that and adjust our values. And then we inject our audio stream into there. So PowerPoint is boring. Let's get to the tool.
Okay. There we go. I'm going to minimize PowerPoint here, and we're going to give a demonstration of our tool. What I have here is 3 separate VMs in its own subnet. This is going to allow me to give the demonstration without having to worry about external connectivity. So we have this one right here, blue-purple background, and we have this one with the reddish-brown background. These are going to be our 2 RTP endpoints. And I'm using a SIP softphone client called Ikiga. And using that, I can just dial, let's see, this one's 128, so let's dial the other one. Okay. It's going to be a little echoey because the speaker and the microphone are on the same laptop, but we're still able to demonstrate what's going on. So now we have that established conversation. I'm going to mute that until I actually get to the injection. We have the established conversation, and we can tell that something's going on. We heard that echoing. We could hear the sound coming through. So now I'm going to come over here to the attacker machine, and I'm going to launch our program. And we can see that it's automatically populated this list on the left with the source hosts. And when you select it, it automatically updates the other side with the destination that source is currently talking to. So we see 128 is talking to 130, 130 is talking to 128. Tells you what codecs in use. You know, it very makes it easy to see what's going on. We can change what network device we're listening on. So let's change it to the loopback real quick. And we see that in about 10 seconds, the lists are actually going to depopulate because you figured 10 seconds is a pretty good timeout. After you haven't seen an RTP packet, obviously the conversation's ended, and we see that it has depopulated the list. So we're going to go back to the Ethernet device, automatically repopulates. Let's try to inject a file. So we're going to go from 128 to 130, and we're actually going to inject an OGG Vorbis file. We saw that the codec was PCMU, but we're going to inject an OGG. So let's see what happens. Cross your fingers. Oh, right. I got to unmute it. Let's try this again. This is a test. A little loud, a little echoey. That's unexpected volume on the audio out, but we actually heard the audio, and that was coming out of the RTP endpoint.
The commanding voice of RTP injection.
So if we come over here and we end the conversation, and we go back, and before it times out, let's try to inject again. No RTP packets are being seen. So it's actually unable to create a spoofed packet, unable to inject. It's going to time out in 10 seconds. And we didn't hear the audio that time. And I hope that convinces you that it actually was coming out of the one of the SIP endpoints and not just in this, the attacker machine. So let's go back to the PowerPoint now. Here we have several screenshots. These were put in here in case some issues with the demo could not be recovered from. These are also here to show people who download our slides what the tool actually looks like, what it does. So how exactly is this working? We have a background thread, and it's just listening constantly in an infinite loop for UDP packets with the 43rd byte set high. This particular byte indicates RTP v2, and then we also check the payload type. RTP can carry audio and video. So we don't want to be enumerating the clients in a video connection, so we just ignore those, and we use just we just list the ones that we can use. So now that an individual has selected the source, the destination, and they want to inject an audio file. So they select a file, and it can be WAV, OGG Vorbis, it can be MP3 if you have the proper plugin. We use GStreamer for the multimedia transcoding, and it supports a large variety of plugins. And then we support output to PCMU, PCMA, and GSM. If you come across one of the rare conversations which isn't using one of those three, we can still inject into it. You just have to prepare the file beforehand. We don't have an encoder to automatically encode into that. So you've selected the file, and you hit inject. We have a separate thread that gets launched, waits for one packet, assuming it sees that one packet, the conversation is still active. It takes it and uses this packet as a template. The only fields that we actually change is the actual RTP data, the sequence number, the timestamp, and the IP ID. We initially increased the sequence number, IP ID, and timestamp by 100, 100, and 100 times 160. That's the size of the RTP data. And then for each additional packet, we just increment it by 1, 1, and 160. And as you heard, it comes through out on the endpoint clear as day. And you can just do that all day long. So I guess that is actually the end of our Turbo Talk. Are there any questions?
Shoot.
When you inject the RTP, does it come out of both ends? Because obviously you're in the middle, so you specify, I want to inject on this side.
In this instance, it's from the source to the destination, so only one endpoint is going to hear it. It would be simple to get a second packet and send it to both endpoints.
You got to leave some features for version 2. Come on.
How hard would it be to adapt that to inject video?
That's something we haven't looked at. I don't see any technical reason why it would.
I don't think it would be, from a technical standpoint, it would be a problem. The issue with RTP is the lack of the integrity, lack of confidentiality. So as long as we can get something in there and we have the appropriate values, it should be able to be put into the stream.
Okay. Despite Zane's disparaging remark on SRTP, which doesn't necessarily hold true.
Not necessarily.
No. Correct. If SIP is done securely, then your key is going to be done securely.
If you're running into the TLS section, then it's going to be hard.
Absolutely. And you should be doing that, definitely. We completely agree. The kind of interesting thing with that, and this is just based on my own observations, is that the documentation and the development and everything seems to be done a lot more on SRTP than it's done on SIP TLS, which is kind of interesting. The code seemed a little more mature for that. Again, in my experience, I'm not a VoIP guy. I kind of hopped into this. So judging it, from someone, say, the role of an admin that who's jumping in, and it didn't really seem, I wish I had put the quote in here on that. On one of the VoIP wikis talking about SRTP, it said something like, I'm paraphrasing here, but, you can use SRTP, and sure, maybe it doesn't provide perfect stuff because maybe the key is sent in the clear, but none of the tools out there know how to pick that out automatically, so if you're trying to defend against